Hi guys, I'm Ryan Houston and welcome to my fly tying channel. Your video is about to start shortly. Please take this opportunity to hit the like button down below, leave some comments, tell your friends. Interaction, likes, subscriptions help my channel to grow and help me to keep producing content for yourselves. If you're new to my channel, check out the other videos that I've got. There are over 500 videos at this stage, so there should be something there for everybody. Again, video is about to start. Hit that like button down below. Okay guys, salmon fly tonight. So this is a type of a Francis type fly, or pot-bellied pig type fly. This is a Creme Brulee. So you can tie this in a variety of different tubes. You could tie it on coppers or brass or something like that. You could tie it on bottle tubes. You could tie it on sort of the Sean Stanton type shaped conical tubes if you want that bit more weight. I'm going to tie it on a plastic tube here with an orange cone head, because I'm going to tie a smallish one. So I'm cutting off about 15 to 18 mil there of 1.8, sorry 3.2 outer tubing, and I'm going to line that with this black 1.8 inner. So I'm flaring the inner just to get that little lip on. Put that onto my needle and then slide the inner down it, slide the outer over that, and then what we want to do is push that over it so it doesn't do it handily. What you do is get a metal tube and just slide that back until we get our little bit here for holding the hook. And then I'm going to use this thread. It doesn't really matter what colour thread you're going to use because it has a cone head. I'm just using this as a 140 denier UTC because it's quite strong. And take that back to our little flange here. So this fly has these sort of feelers on it. So what we're going to do is take a hackle, in this case like a red game hackle, and strip that back. I'm going to tie that in on top here. And what I'm actually doing is I'm using the cut ends here to, because I'm going to put several leaves in here, I'm trying to use it to get that little bit more thickness at the back here to get that conical shape of the body. So I have a couple of these that I've already stripped back. It's one of my least favourite jobs in fly tying, I have to say. I'm going to put another one on each side of it. So the number you put on is up to yourself. But smaller fly, maybe 2. Bigger fly, you could have 4 of these in it. Here we're going for 3. So you can see I set them side by side, so we end up with this sort of flare across the top. And then having all 3, I'm going to hold them back here. And once I have them, then I can cut them, they'll all be the same length. So, tail on this fly then, what we need is something sort of like the black and white natural, like my beard, coloration. So options here, I've seen it tied with like a badger, like an American badger. I've also seen it tied with grey squirrel. I actually quite like the look of the grey squirrel. Or I suppose another option would be a possum. So if you have natural opossum, it has this sort of badger look to it. It has that guard hair and then the white with the black tips. So I'm going to use that. I'm going to take a bunch of that. I'm going to hold it by the black tips and get rid of the underfur. And I'm going to measure that up into the tail, so it's not going to go the full length of it. You can see the guard hairs are going about 3/4 the length of it. The main bulk of it's maybe going half the length of those of those bristles, and then trim that to length, set it on top, and tie across. Now I'm just going to push it down a little bit to flatten it and splay it across the hackle stalks. And that is our tail. So it has that creamy white appearance, shall we say. So if you want, you can go now and get some sort of flash added into that. So standard crystal hair, I suppose, would be the one to go with. So we get a pearl or a UV or something like that there. And I'm going to tie a length of that in, probably about 2/3 the length of the tail, and then fold that back on itself and tie that back. Trim it off to the same length as the other, and that's our tail done. So a rear hackle. So for this, what we want is something like a furnace type. So anything that's red game with a black center. So I have one of these natural little capes here. So this sort of thing here. So you can see it has a natural lightish red game with the black center. So I'll strip that off. And you can even use this strip bit of the stock as a tail in another fly if you want. So you'll have seen me before double hackle, so there's videos to show that on my techniques section. So if you want, you can go check that out. So I have the hackle doubled, nip out the tail as per usual, come back here, tie across, flip it back, and then it is time to wind that hackle on. So we just create a steady base with the tying thread there, and then we're going to wind this. A couple of turns back of our thread, that brings us back to where we're looking to tie this in. Tie across it, flip it forward, and tie over it. And again, we're sort of getting that little bit of taper here in the shank. So next we want to put a rib in. So for that we're going to use some sort of gold oval. Use quite a wide one here. Tie that in. Doesn't matter really where you tie this in on the shank with these flies. So tie that in. And for the body, what we're going to use is some sort of like a light orange sort of Spectra dub or glister or whatever. Now I've actually mixed a couple of different ones, sort of yellows, oranges together to get me this sort of orangey yellow shade. And we're going to dub that on. So twist our bunch out, start to twist it here. Creates our little noodle. A turn catches a few fibers of it. That means I can then stretch my dubbin out and continue to twist, and that will give me my dubbin twist. So I'm going to start around the middle here, and then I'm going to go backwards with it. That gives me one thickness here, and then when I start to travel forwards I then have two thicknesses. I'll step back down onto the one, and that gives me my bit of taper. Add a little bit more to it. Okay. And then we'll take our gold tinsel. I'm doing one turn right at the back here, and then when it hits itself again on the top, I'm starting to travel forward, because thick stuff you'll get like 3 turns or so out of it. It's always a sort of a balancing act as to how many turns of tinsel you get compared to the body. Like which do you want to predominate, your body or your tinsel wrap? So now we're at the front. We're going to put another one of these hackles in, so same thing again, but I suppose slightly smaller this time. So I'll pick a smaller one off the cape here. Again, double it up, or whatever way you're used to wrapping hackles, doesn't really matter. And results kind of the same. Tie that in. Wrap it, and as you can see I'm sort of stroking it with each turn, and then hold it in place. That means I could let this go and it's still tight. Turn over another, slide back again, and tie that off. I'm just going to flip it back on itself for added security and trim that up. So if you're tying on a metal tube, you could now use the orange thread as the orange head on this fly, but we're not, so we're going to put on a couple of jungle cock here now, and then a cone. So I'm going to tie one in on that side, and then I'm going to get one to match it for this side over here. So I suppose we're slightly roofing this fly, if that makes sense to you. Tie the 2 ends back. You can cut them, or if your thread control is good enough, you can snap them. I'll put in a half hitch now, and then we'll get the cone ready. I'll slide the cone on here and have it waiting. What I'm going to do is I am going to super glue a few inches of the thread. Super glue gel is quite good at this stage actually, less messy. Wrap that in, you'll get this super glued head. As I said, if you wanted to tie, that would be enough on its own if you had weight already. And now I'll ram the cone back onto that. Cut off my thread, tight to that, and that's our fly tied. We just need to flare the end on it now. So take it off. Trim that off, leaving what, 2 mil, and then flame, hold your tube vertically, allow it to settle back down itself till it hits the tube, and then just before it gets totally hardened, just stick a needle into it and that'll make the eye patent. So that is our Creme Brulee. So it has that sort of caramel hue to it, I suppose. So Creme Brulee, pot-bellied pig type fly. Hopefully you liked the video. So if you did, give us a like, subscribe, check out all the other videos on the channel and tell your friends about them. And until next time, tight lines. Thanks for watching.